My name is Maria Keller and I'm a digital artist from Mexico. On this tutorial, I'll teach you how you can create a simple illustration of a chameleon in Adobe Illustrator and then take it into After Effects to make an animation. So let's begin. First, here you can see that I just created a document that is 1280 by 1024. And if you want to follow along, just create that size. Then I'm going to go and use my pen tool. And what I'm going to go and do is kind of draw like a rectangle. So just make a point here, make another point there and drag it. So you make a little curve, make another point here and again drag it. Now I'm going to go click again on that point while pressing Alt to break tangency. And then I'm going to click again here and extend it to make a curve. And again, click again on that point to break the tangency. And let's move this one with my direct selection tool to make this one look a little bit better. So yeah, something like this. Now I'm going to round this corner a little bit because it's too pointy. So you can do it like that. And let's refine this a little bit. So you're going to get this shape that it's kind of like a triangle, but a little bit rounded. So next thing I'm going to create is going to be an eye. So to do that, I'm going to go and use the ellipse tool. You can find it here on the tools panel by clicking here on the rectangle and find the ellipse tool, or press L on your keyboard. Now if you press Shift, you get a perfect circle and you can change the dimensions here if you're using the latest version of Illustrator CC. If you are using a previous version and have a different layout, you can find all these windows on the window panel. So now let's go and move here and create a smaller ellipse. You can also click simply on the canvas and apply the values before you create the ellipse. Now let's make this one a little bit bigger and move it right here. So one thing that I don't like about this is that it's kind of like a perfect circle. So I'm going to go to my direct selection tool, select the anchor point on the right and on the left, and using my arrow keys on my keyboard, just move it twice. Just click twice. So you move the anchor points a little bit and it looks a little bit more like an ellipse. Now with my pen tool, I'm going to create a point. Then I'm going to go here and create another point. Then I'm going to go here and create another point and drag. Something like this. You can refine this then with the direct selection tool, so don't feel pressure to have these curves exactly as I have them on the first try. Now next, I want to create this kind of half circle, so I'm just going to create another point and drag it so I get this. And I'm going to do the same here on this one. Click another point and drag it. And then on the middle of this, or actually a little bit to the left, I'm going to do another one and another one, so I get this kind of like a spiral. And as I said, you can go to your direct selection tool and let's move a little bit this handle so I get something a little bit more interesting and nicer. So here you can see that this has to look like a single line and not something that is like in pieces. Now here I'm going to create another point. I'm going to make something like this, a point here kind of flat, and then let's make another one probably there. It's okay. Now I'm going to remove the fill so I only stay with the stroke. And one thing that you can do is make sure that this point is intersecting the other line. And I'm going to actually refine with my handles the way this is getting closer to this little spiral that I did on the bottom. So next thing that I want to do is just go and find my scissors tool. So you can press C or go and find them right here below the eraser tool. And you can click on whatever point and you're going to see that you can like cut the line. But let me undo this. Where you should click is where they are kind of intersecting. So around there, you can see that they are over there. So I'm just going to select these two and go Object, Group. And you can see that these two are in a single group, and if I double click on that one, I can go inside that group, and I can go with my direct selection tool and select all these anchor points. Now let's go here into anchors and connect selected endpoints. If you don't do the thing that I just did, that where you group and you try to select everything, you're not going to get this, because you're going to get 3 anchor points with the one in the spiral. So next, I'm going to use my pen tool by pressing P on my keyboard, and I'm going to make a little leg. So to do that, I make a point and I drag. I make another point and drag, and kind of going around like this. It's as if you were doing kind of like a C. So I'm here refining my points and redoing them a little bit. I click again there to break the tangency, and now I can move this around to round it a little bit. Yeah, I guess that's looking better. And this anchor point, I could convert it to be smooth, so I get something not with a sharp edge there. I'm just gonna position this leg in there, and now I'm going to create like a little hand. So this one is going to be as if you were doing an L, something like that. Just click and drag, and you can see that I only use 4 points, so I get like a little L. Next, I think my chameleon needs some out, so I'm using my pen tool, clicking on that point, clicking on this one to drag. I can make a little smile. I'm gonna select these 2 objects, and let's just go and copy them. And now that I have copied both of these objects, I want to make the chameleon a single shape. So I'm going to select everything, go to my pathfinders. If you don't find them, as I said on your right, you can go to Window and find Pathfinder, and let's hit Unite. Now you can see that everything is a single shape. And now what I wanted to go is go Edit, Paste in Place, or Ctrl-Shift-B to paste those shapes that I just copied. And now you can see that I have my shapes there. And all I want to do is go to my scissors tool, so by pressing C or going use the tool, and I just want to cut where they are intersecting and delete this bottom part. I just need the top part. So I'm going to do the same with these 2, and then again deleting the bottom part. I only have the top part right there. Next, I'm going to create some lines here, so I'm just going to go with my pen tool, make a line here kind of like extending the one that I had. It doesn't have to be perfect, just something like this, so that we make that line that it's separating the head from the body. And now I want to go to my pen tool and create like some U's. So just make a point, click and drag, and go back around there. And I'm going to do this 3 times. So I'm just pressing P again to go and create a different line. Just P again, and there we go, our three little U's. So now that we have our chameleon, what we can do is actually make like a little branch for this. So I'm going to go into my pen tool, just create a line, click and drag, click and drag, click and drag. You can see that the only reason why I'm doing this is because I don't want to have straight lines. And here I'm just rounding it because branches have like kind of this shape. So I'm just going all the way around to create something like this. Okay, so now that we have our branch created, I need to begin adding color. So I already selected a palette in advance, so you can use the same as I had here, or you can feel free to select your own colors. I'm just going to change the color of the eye to black, the chameleon to be green. Let's go right click, arrange, send to back, to send it to back. And let's add a brown color to this branch. And again, right click, arrange, send to back. And next thing that I want to do is I want to give these lines a little bit of character. So I could just select the color and increase the stroke and have something like that, but I think this is not looking quite well. So what I can do is go to my ellipse tool and let's create our one ellipse that is like this. I'm gonna actually make one that is kind of like 150 by, I don't know, let's try to 18, and I could just swap the fill and stroke. This is actually a little bit too thick, but I'm going to change the color to black, and then I'm gonna decrease the height to something like 12 and make sure that you have independent values like this. So once I have that, I'm going to go into Window and I'm going to go and find Brushes. Then this window is going to appear, and in here all I have to do is just click on this one and drag it and drop them on the brushes, and this window is going to appear, and all I have to do is make sure that I'm going to with Art Brush, press OK. Now this window is going to appear. In here you can leave everything as it is, just make sure that you select as a method Tints and just press OK. Next thing that I want to do is apply this brush to this line, and you can see how now it's different and it's looking way better because both sides are smaller. So I can change the stroke to, let's try something like 0.5, and let's do the same for the other lines. So I'm just selecting all of them, applying this brush that I just created, and you could use the eyedropper to sample the color and the size. So now that I have this, I can delete this ellipse because I don't need it anymore, and I kind of want something for the background. So I'm going to go into my shapes and find the star tool. Now just have a click, and in here a window like this is going to appear, and let's change the radiuses. So I'm going to change my radius 1, which is the one on the inside, to be 370, and the radius 2 is going to be 300, and my points 20. So I get something like this. And now let me change the color to this blue. Let's go Arrange, Send to Back. Now what we need to do is to actually round it. So I'm going to go to my Direct Selection tool and take all these handles and round them here to the center. So I get a shape like this, which is, I think, a little bit more interesting. So now that I have this, I can go to Window, Align, and let's align, making sure that I'm aligning to Artboard. Let's align this horizontal and vertically. Now I need to select everything but that circle in the background and make the chameleon appear there. So it has this size. Now I think this is a little bit bigger, so I'm just going to select these two anchor points and move it a little bit to the top so the head's not that big. And also I think I can make some adjustments here, like a little bit, so the back looks a little bit better. And now that we have this, we're going to go into layers, and we need to separate this. So I'm just going to create a couple layers and drag them on the bottom, and let's call this one background, and we're gonna just go and select this, and this little square is going to appear. Just click and drag it to the background, and now you can see that the background, this shape is on its own layer. I'm gonna do the same for the branch, so I'm just gonna create a new layer, drag and drop it, and let's rename this to branch. Next I need the eye, so I'm just going to select the eye and just move it, drag and drop it onto a new layer, and I'm gonna call this eye. And I'm gonna do the same for this these lines, just drag them onto a new layer, and let's call this one lines. Don't worry about the lines going out of the chameleon for now. And this one, the layer that is missing, is going to be the body. So now that everything is on its own layer, all I have to do is save this as an Illustrator document. You don't have to do anything else. And now it's time to go into After Effects. So we're going to jump into After Effects, double click here on Project, and find that chameleon file that that we just made in Illustrator. Now let's change the composition and make sure that we have the layer size. So double click here, and now we have all our layers that we had in Illustrator. So that's exactly what we want. And we're gonna begin our animation. So the first thing I wanna do is go into my composition settings by clicking right-click, composition settings, and let's make sure that my frame rate is steady, that my composition is going to have the same width and height as my document on Illustrator had. For now, 120 is good, and I could change the background instead of having that black to have this white, so we can see it. Next, I'm going to begin with my animation. So the first thing I'm going to do is go in here with this body. And what I want to do is like make the chameleon change color. So I'm just going to go here without selecting any layer and go to the ellipse tool, and let's press shift so I create a circle and make a circle like this. Now I'm going to move it roughly here, and I can scale it so it has this size. Now what I want to do is go here to scale, just press S to bring the scale, click on the stopwatch to add a keyframe, and now let's change this. You can see that if I make the scale, the anchor point is not there, so let's go to the pan behind tool by clicking here and place the anchor point roughly into the center of the circle, so the scale happens from there. Now I'm gonna scale this up all the way until it covers the chameleon. And now if I have a little preview, you can see that that is happening, and that's like okay. And what I can do right now is let's move the shape layer here where the body is. So let's select my shape layer, select my body, and I'm going to go right click, create shapes from vector layer. So I can delete the Illustrator file, sorry, the Illustrator layer, because now I have my shape. And now I'm going to go here and type set mate. And I'm going to drag and drop that onto my shape layer. And let's go here to take mate from that body layer. And you can see that now this is just getting masked with the body layer. So I can move it right there on top of the body, and you can see how the chameleon is changing color from green to blue. And one thing that you are seeing right here is that the lines are not changing color, so I can go to my lines, select the mode, and you can give it a try to multiply, but it's going to look kind of green. So you can change the opacity to something around 60 and just see what happens. It gets still that green. So the mode that you're looking for is actually color born, and now you can see that when the blue appears, they are blue, and when the green is still there, they are green. So that's exactly what we want. So I think this like animation could work well, but it's a little dull. So we're gonna add some kind of effects to this shape layer. So the first thing we're gonna do to make this more interesting is select both keyframes on our scale, and we can see that that scale is going into a straight line. So just go right click, keyframe assistance, easy ease. Now if I select again my keyframes and go into my graph editor, you can see that it's not longer a straight line. Now you have like a curve. And what I could do to make this look even better is get some acceleration at the beginning and then slowing down at the end. So I get a graph that it's kind of like this. So now let's preview the animation by pressing our spacebar. Now you can see how that is happening, beginning a little bit slow and then gaining some speed. Maybe it's happening too fast, so let me just decrease this a little bit. I think that is working a little bit better. So now we're gonna go in here and let's add a little bit of a texture to this animation. So I'm gonna go into the effects And let's find the wave warp. So we're gonna drag it and drop it into the shape layer. And you can see that this is getting very distorted. And the reason for that is that this wave warp is happening after the matte. So what we have to do is just click and drag that effect on top. So now the warp is happening before the mask is getting applied. So now you can see a little bit of a wave on the circle. So I'm just actually going to make this last a little bit longer, so around 60. Now I'm going to change some parameters here on the waveguard. Let's go to wave height of 22. This parameter of the width, I'm going to actually animate it in a bit. So the direction, let's change it to something around, let's decrease it so we can see it better. 124, I think, for direction is fine. And for the wave width, I'm gonna add a keyframe. So I'm just gonna go on the beginning, click on the stopwatch, press U to bring the keyframes or the parameters that are animated. And now let's go here and type something like 35 and then all the way to the end. And let's change this value. Instead of having it on 35, let's add something like 103. And now we can see what's happening. You can see how it is also getting bigger, but it's also having a little bit of a movement there. So I can have a preview by pressing my spacebar, and you can see how it's getting kind of filled. So the animation is not as simple as it was before. So once that I have this, I can see a little preview. I can go and adjust my scale, so increase this so it is barely touching my chameleon, and here it's covering all. So I get a better animation. Let's just have another preview again to see what's going on. You can see how the chameleon is changing color, and now it's blue. So I think this is working actually a little bit better. So let's wait for the preview to finish. And yeah, it's better. You can see how both animations are happening at the same time. And that is giving a lot of better results. So what I could right now is just press Ctrl D to make a copy. At the moment you cannot see any difference, but if I go to layer 2, this layer 2 that just got created, I can change the color to, let's say, this orange. And okay, nothing is happening because that layer 2 is actually exactly on top of layer 1. So what I can do is go here into the, press U to bring the animated parameters. And let's go all the way to the frame number 0. So I can remove the scale animation by just going and remove the stopwatch. And all I have to do is parent it. Now everything is happening again just as before because my scale is parented to the scale of layer 1. But I want to actually change that, so I want to offset that animation. So all I have to do is go here into the expression, and let's just go in here and we're gonna type something to make it different. So I'm gonna type dot value at time. Make sure that you use the caps in the correct order. Then I'm gonna open and close a bracket, and I'm gonna type in there time, and I'm gonna type, let's say, -0.2. So now if I see the animation, even if I preview it, you can see how the blue is coming first and then 0.2 after. We can see the orange. Of course, 0.2 it's kind of like too little, so maybe we can increase this to 0.5. Now it's happening with a bigger delay, but we can also change this to, let's say, 0.8, because I want that after the blue is completed, once the blue is almost done, you start to see the orange. So you get a little bit of more time to see this. So once the preview is done, we can see how this is looking. First the blue and now the orange. And yeah, I think this is working better. And you could repeat this effect as much as you want. So let's just go and Ctrl D again to duplicate that layer, and let's change the color of this orange to, let's say, I don't know, let's click here. Let's find a purple. So let's click there, okay. And now again, nothing is happening because it's copying the orange one. So what we have to do is again, open our expression. And here we could change the time, but what if instead of telling the layer 3 that going to see layer 1, it goes and sees layer 2. This is the name of that second layer, and it's going to be then 0.8 after that layer 2. So now let's see how this is looking. So now let's go on into our background. Let's go and open rotation by pressing R. Let's add a keyframe on the first and a keyframe on the last. And we're gonna go 1 full rotation, so it's gonna be 360. And what I can do is select both, go keyframe assistance easy ease. And what that's gonna happen is it's gonna take some speed and then it's going to slow down at the end, but maybe that's not what you want, because if you want to loop this, at the moment it's not looping because you would have to go back to green. But for now, you're gonna see that how the background is helping this. Alright, so once the preview is completed, right now my computer is calculating everything, because now it has the rotation of the background. So now here you can see the different things. And as I said, you can see how this is speeding up and speeding down. So we don't want that. We can select both of them. Press Ctrl twice. And now we have a speed that is constant. Now what we can do is just copy that background by pressing Ctrl C and Ctrl B. Push the background 2 on top and use the track matte to follow that alpha of the background too. So now the branch is only inside that that background, and the animation is looking exactly as before. And now finally what we are going to do is mask our lines. So we can just simply go Ctrl C and Ctrl B to make a copy of our body, put it on top of the lines, and now let's just simply use alpha matte on the lines so they don't go out. And with this we have a very simple animation of a chameleon, and at the moment it's just going into one color to the other. If you would like to loop this, just simply make one more copy of the shape layer and put it back into green. And just as simple as that, you can get a chameleon animation thing in no time. So I hope you enjoyed this tutorial. Thank you very much for watching. See you next time.